So, hello everyone, and welcome to my Let's Talk series, where we share conversations with those who support families navigate their international life successfully. I'm very happy to have Amanda Hsiung-Blodgett today as my guest, with whom we are going to talk about learning Chinese whilst living abroad. So, now before we dive into the topic, if you're following us live, please share your questions in the comments so that we can answer them live. And if you watch the recording of this video, then please continue just the conversation in the comments as well. So Amanda Hsiung-Blodgett is passionate about raising bilingual kids. Let me just introduce you very, very briefly. She has been a Mandarin and ESL, English as Second Language teacher, an executive at Warner Bros. This is a magic one, and Netflix, Word Party Chinese language consultant for the dual language seasons. She is the founder of Miss Panda Chinese and the author of First Mandarin Sounds, an awesome Chinese word book that she has in the background and I have here. So across the ocean. And she is also the host of the Playful Chinese podcast. Keep your eyes open also for her next book with the title Little Bun, a Bilingual Storybook About Feelings, which was co-authored with her bilingual daughter. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So when we raise our children abroad with languages that are not necessarily part of the school curriculum, and we want our children to learn our home languages, we need to be very consistent.
Yes.
Many of us want our children not only to speak, but also to read and write our languages. Well, some of us, many of us. And when languages have then the same script, it seems much easier to transfer the skills from one language to the other. But what about languages that have a different script? So, Amanda, thank you very much for taking the time to be on the screen with me today and to answer a lot of questions that we have and that we prepared also in part. Can you please share a little bit more about yourself, about your background and your work as a teacher and also as a mother of bilingual, multilingual children?
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, Ute. Thank you so much. Your passion transmits across ocean as well. So I think, this is so important to have such a supporting friends and people in the community to help you on your bilingual or multilingual journey. So for me, I actually started with a corporate career. And then when I have kids and we decided that we want to raise them with English and Chinese, and also later on, also Spanish. We didn't live in the States, even though our home base is in the United States. And we lived overseas. We were in Central Asia. We were in North America, South America. Our last place was in Ecuador, Quito, Ecuador. So I think as I move, you can tell there's really no home base about how, I was going to kind of put everything together and help our kids to still have the environment to focus on the target language, which is Mandarin Chinese, is to create a community for them. So use the idea of create a community so they're not lonely when they are learning. If they are only speaking the language with me, I think it's less impactful or less fun because it's just me, mommy school. I don't know. So so the idea was like, so I want to bring it to their friends. So the background is from a career lady, and then becomes a mother. And from the mother, I think about how and what I can do to help the kids to be able to engage in the target language, but also the community language because it's a part of their life. So within that, I always say that I've been surfing on the surfboard and then surf on the surfboard of the Mandarin Chinese. And then sometimes we tumble, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but that's the journey. And so that's why I have Miss Panda Chinese. It's a place I want to share my experience, my worldview of not just focus on the Chinese language, but also the Chinese culture and the world culture and also multicultural books. So let kids feel they are connected and parents are connected and also they are connected with their own culture.
Yes, absolutely. And also that the parents are connected still to their culture, right? Through
Yes.
transmitting it to, or them, if there are more than one, to their
Yes.
children through this. Absolutely. So, Amanda, we have talked about many aspects of raising children with Chinese abroad, and you know that there is this myth sometimes of, or many prejudice or about the so-called the tiger moms. I know
Mm.
that this is a title that has been out for a while, but
Mhm.
I see this also coming up in different international settings where there are parents who are, maybe one of the parents is Chinese, or both of them are Chinese, and then people reacting thanks to this book, yeah, in a certain way. And it's ironic, this thank you, but then reacting in a way that I find needs to be somehow discussed. Or I would like you to please debunk this myth that all Chinese mothers are tiger moms, and what are tiger moms and why tiger and not lion. As I told you before, I often feel or felt like the lion mom, yeah, defending her
Mm.
cubs. And I think every mom who has to defend her children at some point will feel
Yeah.
like that you roar very loudly. But please, can you help me debunk this myth that our Chinese moms are tiger moms? If
Tiger mom.
even, yeah.
Oh, wow. Usually, when the book came out, I read it. I was asking my kids, I said, "Am I a tiger mom?" They look at me, they're like, huh? I think most of the parents will tell you, especially a lot of mothers, Chinese mothers or mothers with a Chinese background, they will probably tell you they are the paper tiger mom. So it's not real. So I believe when we talk about tiger mom, I think it's actually a cross culture, because I think the intention is like all the mothers want the best for their children. They want their children to gain the skill they probably will need in the future. So they would like to cultivate that. So the tiger mom sounds very stern, and then they need to discipline their kids at a very young age. But I would rather say this is more like a tiger mother. And I think the tiger mother is not just for the Chinese culture. I think it's across cultures. I see that firsthand. But I think we can dive into a little bit of the culture behind the tiger mom. Before the tiger mom, the book, I believe it's 2011. The book came out. But what's behind the term tiger mom is actually the historical novel actually has the term called tiger dad or tiger father. Tiger father, the phrase is tiger father will not have a dog son, which means if there's a strong father, there'll be a strong child. So in that case, it's a compliment in the Chinese culture when somebody say that. 虎父无犬子. The tiger father will not have a dog son, which means you have a strong father and your son is actually going to be very talented, very strong. So it's a compliment. But when we talk about tiger mom, something will have a little bit different kind of connotation in that.
Yeah.
So I would like to clarify that with a little bit culture kind of content in there. So we know it's support for dad, it's a compliment. I think we should be a positive thing for mom as well. I think because tiger mom, I think they work very hard. And then I think just mom across the board. If you're here and you are raising your child in more than one language, I think it's a lot of hard work. And I think we need to respect that. And so the tiger mom, I would always say it's more like a paper tiger mom. I think you will see a lot of paper tiger mom. And then I think we need to show the same respect to dad as well. So sometimes people joke about, oh, are you a tiger mom or you're a lamb mom? Also more soft. I think it's a style of your parenting style. So I think when we talk about tiger mom, we can take it easy and look in a different direction. We can all be tiger mom. We can all be paper tiger mom. But the point is how we connect with our children and help them to have that consistency to learn on the bilingual journey.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the main aspects where this comes up regularly is when it is about when and how to start teaching our children reading and writing Chinese or speaking Chinese with our children. I observed in some families, I know that the parents would rather skip Chinese for a certain amount of time to let their children function in the school or the dominant language in the society, in the community they were living, and then wonder, can I still start with Chinese? That's my language or my partner's language. Can we still start this? So I would like you to maybe specify or to say what you know and what your experience is with these families, because you teach children. You can tell us more about that. So when and how to start teaching our children reading and writing in Chinese when living abroad. So we're not talking about this in Chinese or a Chinese speaking country. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of the times when we talk about a target language or the language you're working on, I think we also need to reflect back to the first language we are teaching to our children. If we look at little babies, when a child was born, you were not expecting them to speak right away. Actually, it takes about a year, which means 12 months, 52 weeks, 24/7, they're in that native language environment, even though they speak by now. But it's over 8,000 hours of input of the language. So what do? They produce the first word. And we are so excited. Oh, the first word. That's a long time. So now go back to look at the target language of learning Chinese. Even when they're a little bit older, you want to introduce Chinese to them. I think what we need to have is the patience. And also, when the kids are younger, they are fearless because they are very open to a lot of things. So little kids, when you see them learn new language, they will sing songs, they will chant, and they'll play with you. Seems like there's really not a lot of difficulty, because that's why people say, oh, kids, they kind of absorb everything like sponge. And I always say that, well, the sponge needs to have good water as well so they can learn. So for older kids, we really need to have empathy. We really need to understand that they now, probably they already have the first language very fluent. They speak very good fluently in English or any community language. So when you want them to be in touch with the target language like Mandarin Chinese, we need to have the same patience we had for the child when he or she was a baby. But at the same time, you need more empathy, because we need to care about their feelings and their fear, because they are now more conscious about how they are going to represent, how they're going to say it, are going to say it correctly. So that's very important. And the other thing is, I always say, listen, listen, listen. Read, read, read. The more you listen, the more you're going to get familiar with the sound. You can sing songs, you can watch cartoons, something easy. You listen and you read. It's all input. We need a lot of target language input, but it's supposed to be something they can understand, like the comprehensible. They need to understand first. So a lot of times I say, when you first start, it's okay you use the bilingual material, really, because it's not like in school, the teacher will have different curriculums or this kind of immersion program or a bilingual education program. But at home, if you speak the language, but your child is not familiar with it, you can start with bilingual material. It's a stage. You will fade it out later, and you will move to higher percentage of the target language. I think when I was in school studying bilingual education, I remember reading Dr. Christian's book very early on. He talked about this is a quote I want to read to you. We acquire language when we understand messages, when we understand what people tell us, and when we understand what we read. So understand is so important. So they need to understand what you're talking about. They need to understand what they're reading. So if they understand, they can grow curiosity. When they have curiosity, they are interested and they will want to learn. So I think, the age for younger child, you can start reading as early as possible, like a baby. So if your child is a little older, let's say 5, 10, even teenagers, oh, go with the material they are interested in and do it and read it in the target language, like Chinese. You can start anytime. But start with something they are interested in, start something it's simple for them. Make it simple. And when you make it simple for them, it's simple for you as well.
Yes, absolutely. So just to sum up a little bit what you were saying, also quoting Stephen Krashen, this compelling input, an input that the children can understand, that they can relate to, that might be also about things that are not necessarily around them. So having an object or having a situation explained to them by someone who is quite fluent in the language is quite important from very early on, right? So
yes.
What I am thinking about now when we raise children with Chinese abroad, there are those who have Chinese as one of their heritage languages, so that one of the parents or both parents speak the Chinese. And then there are those who are learning the language or would like to, the parents would like them to learn the language, or for other reasons, they are exposed to Chinese. So there are also different expectations from these two groups. Let's say if there are more than these groups, but let's say these are the two main groups that we want to focus on maybe today, which is when it's a heritage language, there is somehow we must transmit this language to a certain extent so that the children can speak with extended family, etc. And when it's an additional language, it's rather, oh, it's nice to have, it's great, it's a great asset to have. So there is a little less burden and less, yes, for the parents and also for the child. So it is, I think you even mentioned it once, it's like a gift for the children. Yes. So you said we can start at any time. But what if we start teaching Chinese later, let's say starting from 5 years old, 10 years or 15 years old? What are then realistic expectations with regards to language skills? Because I hear it very often. They say, well, my child is already 10, it's way too late. Or it's so complicated even for Chinese children who speak Chinese at home, it will take forever. And, other subjects are more important. So why focus on that? Please enlighten us.
Such an important question, right? And then I love it how you take it to the heritage language group and also people who are learning Chinese as a world language group, because there actually is a difference. A lot of times heritage language for parents, it's very important. You need to talk to grandma, you talk to grandpa, you need to talk to your cousins. You might go back to China, you go back to Taiwan, and or meet your relatives. They all speak Chinese. So yes. I feel there's certain kind of a level of pressure for the parents. So parents can be anxious, not always, but can be anxious. So I think then when we pass on to the kids and say, we want you to learn Chinese because of this, but they don't see the need, or they don't feel like, I'm okay. You see, all my friends are speaking English, for example. So I think we need to take the kids' feelings, emotions into account, and then create a need for them. And it's supposed to be something fun. Even if they're 5 years old, I always say, you can always start with words. If you can start with words, it's something they can get curious. I usually have a lot of different kind of cards, okay? And then just how about just cards? Or then I have words. Oh, this is fire. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Look, fire. And then here is the fire. Or, hey, let's look at another card. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's a mountain. Well, let's look at the character. Do you see the character? Looks like a mountain. Not all Chinese characters are pictured in the pictogram group, but they are about 500 words. They are in there. You can always start with something can be engaging, and they think it's very easy. So 5-year-old, they love those cards. Besides that, okay, you see the book. It's a word book. So word book, it's not just a word book. It actually, you can have fun with it. You can play with it because you need to look for the words. Suddenly they're like, I can read It's just a way to lead them to, it's a literacy. Literacy has a lot of stages. So how do we engage kids and make them feel so interested and curious? I can do more. I want to do more. Not you want to do more, but they want to do more. I think that's, parents are actually teachers, and teachers are facilitators. How you lead a kid, say, I want more. And then you say, oh, how about let's read this? Oh, do you know this story? I have to tell you a story. The first time I pulled out this book, this is Chinese version of Very Hungry Caterpillar, in my first grade class. I pulled it out. They all yelled, I know this book. I can read it. Well, it's in Chinese. They only had Chinese maybe for a few weeks. That's the power. The power of, you can relate something they really love to something you want to teach them. And it's in another language. We can look at the pictures, talk about it. So for the heritage speakers, something your kids can relate to can be very powerful for them, something they're really interested in. Even if it's like TikTok videos, you can use that. For the world language students, kids that are learning this as a world language, I think, like I said, they think like, wow, this is something interesting. It might be fun to be able to speak Chinese. They have less pressure, and sometimes they are more relaxed. In what condition we learn the best? When we are relaxed and have fun. So I think that's both ways. I think parents can see that in both ways. And then it's a mindset. We always tell kids, we say, we want you to have growth mindset. But the first thing is, we need to model that
The growth mindset.
Yes.
Especially, and then coming back to what I said, it's not too difficult. If we continue saying it's too difficult, it's too late, it's too I don't know what, then and even in presence of the children, they will never even try, because they say, well, mom says it's, or dad says, or someone else says it's too late, or it's too difficult. So saying, well, let's see what we can understand and what maybe is similar to what you already know, like the Very Hungry Caterpillar that you just mentioned. I would like to add something also about your book, because what I found very interesting, we bought it a few years ago when my son was also learning Chinese. And what I found, I wanted to learn. I'm not as fast learner of other languages in these last years, like my son. He's a very fast learner.
Wow.
But what I found very, very important for me also, that there is an audio part of it. So even if there is a picture about a word, and it's indicated with the accent, which part needs to be accentuated, or how, I'm not sure I can do this. But anyways, it comes with audio as well. So you have different kind of sources that lead you to understand the different words. And I think that is something that, for me, or for someone who has an approach like mine, is more enticing and it's more encouraging. I would like to share a comment by, let me just quickly do this. We have Dory Chen. Thank you, Dory, for following us. So, hello, Ute, could you insert this question for Amanda? Of course. Any advice on choosing online class platform for Chinese learning? And what she means with that comes with the next one. She's continuing. I mean, what are the important things to take into consideration while choosing a good institution? And are there red flags? Thank you. I think it's a very important question. Thank you very, very much, Dory Chen, for asking this. In fact, sometimes when we are living abroad or so, we take the first thing that happens to us. We skim, I don't know, the internet or the local groups of parents, and there's that, where are you sending your child? Okay, I'm going to sign up my child there. But please, Amanda, tell us, are there any kind of red flags, or what to watch out for when looking for a class?
Thank you for the question. This is something very important. I think the first thing is, if you can visit a school, is a physical school, you should visit a school. That's what I did with my children. We went to different schools, Chinese schools, or like multilingual schools. They offer Chinese, either on the weekends, or they have it, during the after-school program. So you need to visit school. So that said, you should also be able to go to an online class. and be an observer. And I usually very concerned when people say, you are going to learn 500 Chinese characters. I was like, wow, let's go to 100 still. Okay. Language is not collecting dots. We will have dots, but what we need in language is connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So we never tell our kids one word at a time, even when they were a baby. Think about it. Oh, mommy's here. Mommy's talking to you. Oh, do you want to have milk? You never say mom. Milk. M-I-L-K. So language is connecting the dots. Well, I always say that learning a language or learning Chinese is like playing with Lego pieces. The more pieces you have, the bigger your castle is going to be. But you see, we're connecting all the pieces together. So I think sitting in a class, even an online class for 10, 15 minutes, I think you'll get a feeling, a sense of what is this course is going to be about. And then I always think live classes works better for children because they can interact. Language, you need to have interaction. And younger kids, they need to have interaction, because that's why we say, well, giving, for example, an app or talking toy is not going to help the kids to learn a language. What is needed is you sit down with your child, listen to a song like a songbook, and listen to the song together and sing it together. Why? Engagement. You will make your kids feel like, wow, mommy is doing that with me. Look, dad is doing that as well. This is a lot of fun. That's what we need, the interaction. So I think red flag is always like, look at the curriculum. What are they teaching? Be in there. See their teachers. I think one thing we need to remember is there are a lot of people speaking, like, for example, speaking English as a native language, speaking Chinese as a native language. Knowing the language doesn't qualify you to teach the language.
It's a very important one.
Especially for children, because it's so important to have the first teacher. The first teacher will build the curiosity or destroy their curiosity. I'm serious. Just like teaching a child to play piano. That's the same thing. It's like we want to give them the gift, but we also need to make sure this is a gift they would like to receive. And it's a very delicate procedure. And as a parent, we try very hard to build that bridge. And then this bridge is just not one time. We want to have it going, keep going, and keep going. Yeah. So I think that's, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I would like to quote you, because when we talked about this interview today, you said something that I wanted to just put out there. So you said we need to have, or to create, a daily consistency, right?
Yes.
Not the occasional intensity.
Yes.
So I think this is also a very important part for many parents who say, okay, well, my child is going to school in language yellow and we speak language blue at home. And so we have maybe one lesson in language blue and home language per week.
Yes.
And we talk here and there at home. We are very busy parents and we have other children. So there are so many siblings and blah, blah, blah. And in the end, you say, well, actually, that's never enough, right? So having some kind of consistency also at home, and starting with a very young one at home, and then continuing also when the child goes to school and is exposed to the other language, continue also with your home language.
Yes.
It will never be balanced. Yeah, this is something that puts very many parents a little bit into a panic mode, where they say, well, they are losing the language. No, there are ups and downs. So having this consistency still going on, say, oh, I'm not moving from here. I'm going to speak with you in Chinese, even if anything, the world scrolls down.
Yes, yes.
Speaking. Yeah. So that was something that I really liked, and this was why I wanted to quote you with this. So.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I do talk about this a lot. I said we don't need the intensity, and then but we do need an everyday consistency. And the example is like, you can have intensity, for example, oh, once every month, well, do Chinese for 2 hours. And then you take a break. But then if you can do 10 minutes or even 5 minutes a day, and you do it every day for the whole month, the retention will be much higher. And then it's consistent. And then when we think about 2 hours each day, it's hard. But if you talk about 10 minutes a day, it's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And well, yes, also depending on how old the child is, right? If the children are younger, they don't have such a long attention span, especially not after school hours and maybe doing homework. If then you tell them, sit down, yeah, you don't move, huh? This is another thing. Without jumping around and, having fun, that would be much better. and learn or write these signs or try. That's quite a very intense kind of commitment that we take. But I think there is this balance, I think, that we want to convey to be a little bit more relaxed but consistent in the goal that we are setting.
Yeah, I think consistency can sound very rigid and boring, yes. But actually, I really think actually we diversify the activity. I want to use this word, okay? Diversify. You need to give kids agency, which they are in control. So I don't know if you can see my dollhouse is like my bookshelf at this time. I have a lot of toys in here. So basically, anything they give you, okay, let's say heritage speakers. Do you want to read a book today? Or do you want to play a game today? Or how about just play peekaboo? Or how about just do hide and seek? And how about we're going to hide some words or hide your book or hide your toy? There are so many things you can do. We need to make the activity very exciting for them. Compelling, right? Like compelling reading. And then when we do activities, we need to be enthusiastic. Teachers are not teachers are actors. You need to go in the classroom and say, ta-da, we're going to do something very exciting. It doesn't mean that you need to be loud and energetic, but I think that's a presentation you give to the kids. For world language, people who are learning world language, Chinese is a world language, it's just the same thing. We don't speak a lot of Chinese at home. We have a very limited knowledge of the language, but we can start with something simple. Can we put things together? Can we put 2 words together? Can we put 3 words together? Oh, what do we read? Just look at a picture. What do you see? The color. Oh, the person with long hair, short hair. Is it an animal? It's a gradual kind of process. So it doesn't matter what age, but we need to go with their interests, and we also need to diversify the activity.
Yes, absolutely. And maybe with all the children also having the certain landscape in your own home, right? If it's not in the community, let's say you don't have restaurants or, I don't know, companies that have the script of your language, that you surround yourself a little bit more. You're more conscious about surrounding yourself with newspapers, even if we may read them all online, but still. Or books or magazines or posters with landscapes and things that one can relate to the culture and dive somehow into it in our microcosmos that's a family.
Right. I love what you said. I think another important thing, you need to connect with also the community culture. Because when you can connect that, I think it can be very powerful. One story is that because I didn't have a community when we were overseas. So what happened was when I started with my children, we just had a play group with other kids and then try to bring that. We will sing French songs, but then I'll sing Chinese songs. And we all think it's very interesting. I'm learning from those parents in Montreal, Canada, and they are learning, Chinese songs with me. So my kids are like, wow, look, my friends are doing that too. And then when they were a little bit older, when my daughter started preschool, I brought Chinese to her preschool. Why? Because, like I said, you want this to be less lonely. If I am the only person, she's the only person, or the brother and her, they are the only ones doing the Chinese lesson. That'll be kind of not as fun. But then we say, hey, let's do it in the school. Oh, the 20 kids are learning Chinese. And my daughter became the little teacher.
Mhm.
So she is also helping out and she's more engaged. And then this here we have a community. So that's something you can create to let the kids feel this language also can be brought to the outside community. So it's not only just a home language, but it's a home language I can be proud of it and then share with others.
Yes. I would like to focus on this fact that you went into the school of your children and you taught the other children Chinese. So, and your children were in the class with you. Because
Mhm.
I had a question in my Facebook group, Multilingual Families, from Avancha Garcia de Sola. I just read it. It's a little bit long, I'm sorry. But on my experience, when the family language is part of the curriculum, so in that case, there are other challenges. How do you address the teacher of your bilingual children to explain that it could be unworthy for him to start Spanish, for example, if it's another
Mm.
language,
Mhm.
from the very beginning when it is the first language? And how can one manage how can manage the teachers, the mixed group with students who don't know anything and students with a complete competence in the language that they are teaching? So if you have a class like in your classes, I imagine this was the case with your
Mhm.
children being exposed to Chinese at home, so having already a solid base of Chinese together with children who are just starting out with Chinese.
Mhm.
So this is a situation that we encounter very often. Maybe it's not part of the curriculum, this language lesson, but an after-school activity.
Mhm.
But still, teachers can be in this position to, yes, to somehow engage and make it um, motivating for all the children, no matter what level of fluency they have.
Yeah, such a great question. I think we all encounter that, right? So when I started the language program in my daughter's preschool and later on the elementary school, people were saying like, but she knows that already. I said, but the thing is like, first it's the community. Second, she can polish her skill because she becomes the one she can teach others. And for teachers, I think that's where the differentiated instruction comes in. So, like I said, when you look at a picture book, for example, you can read the text, read, or you can look at the pictures, or you can break it down to sentences or phrases. So, kids as a group, because the teacher has, so for example, 15, 20 kids, how do you do that? So, basically, you can divide them to different groups. That will be one way to do it. And then you always have the kids who can actually do more, be the leader in one of the groups. So they can feel so proud and they can help you. They are the little teaching assistants. How wonderful is that? So
Yes.
you can actually have a meeting with them, say, all three of you, okay, we're going to do this. Can you help? Okay, so you have the helpers there. So the other thing you can do is you can do stations. So you can do station one, we do this activity, for example, word search. The second one, we're going to put words into phrases. On the third one, oh, we're going to put all the places into the story. We have a story. Can you figure out what story that is? Then you can have the kids who are actually very good at already know the language be on each table and help out as well, or help kids who cannot say it. The
Mhm.
peer, the peer-to-peer learning actually can be very powerful for younger kids, also for older kids.
Yes.
And then I think that's how we can differentiate the learning. And then also it's like scaffolding, because scaffolding is like we break things down. So
Mhm.
things can be step one, step two, and step three, and they just follow it. So
Mhm.
for the teacher's situation, I think that's a technique they can use. And it's something can be implemented, not too complicated. It's not like you need to have 3 different books,
No.
but you can have an area for the free voluntary reading, and then you have more books for those kids who are more advanced. So I think it's all the preparation, but doesn't mean that you are going to be like, intense your preparation. But you can use have one set, but just give them different tricks, and then you can help the other kids.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we saw this and in many schools or heritage language schools or weekend schools, we see
Mm.
this, that there are more, yes, vertical groups
Yes.
So with children, also different age groups, and then also different levels of fluency in the language.
Yes.
Some maybe can already read, the other ones are starting to talk. So these are all things that there is a lot of material out there, and maybe you can share then also some links to them in the comment section.
Yes.
But I would like to focus now on some tips that you could give to parents for whom, like 5 tips, if you want, even more or less. It's up to you. I can stay as long as you wish. So what are like the 5 top tips for parents who want to raise their children abroad with Chinese as the home language, so as their heritage language?
Yeah, thank you. The heritage language, I do have some ideas I want to share with all of you, but there's one quote I really, really love and I often share with parents, even with teachers as well. I think the first thing we need to know is like we cannot make our kids to speak the language, but we can set up an environment for them so they want to do that. Actually, this is a quote from Bilingual Edge, that book. And then I think I'll read the quote again. You can't make your child speak a language. However, you can set the stage so they will want to speak it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we often talk about the techniques, tips about how we should do this, hacks, so the kids will do this. I think the fundamental question is how we make them feel, how we connect with them, how we can make them feel like this is something, I can do this. They need to feel that they can do it. So I think our relationship with our kids is the foundation of the language building. And that said, I will share the first slide about helping the heritage language children who are speaking Chinese. Here are some tips. I use the word play, Play. I use this word because I think it's easy to remember. And also I feel like this is something very important that you can remember every day. Play. Okay, what does the P stands for? Practice. We talk about we need to have practice every day. We need to have consistency. So we need to have the consistency practice with something fun. And so this is where you can start. Practice. 5 minutes is better than 2 hours in a month. 5 minutes a day, make it happen. And you can do this. And the second one is learn. So learning playfully. So like we said, we need to diversify what we do with books, with toys, going out. This is summertime. Have fun, use words, use phrases, use toys to help you to put things together. When we learn and having fun, we will remember. Hands-on. No sit down. Let's run. Let's read it upside down. Do something outrageous. Do something fun. So the learning can be coming in to your mind and go to the heart. That's what we actually really want. A is application, which means they learn the language. They'll be able to use the language. Go, if there's a bubble tea place, go to the bubble tea place and order bubble tea and say something. And often there will be people who can speak the language Chinese and let them practice. Go to a grocery store. Maybe the owner is Chinese. They want to speak Chinese with the kids. Or if you don't have anybody, you know what? Open up your bubble tea stand right in front of your house. Serve bubble tea and say, you need to say bubble tea, 珍珠奶茶, I'll give you a cup for free. So create a need. Make it fun for the kids. Application is what we are learning a language for. Communication. Why? Yes, you can. You need to first believe your kids. They can do it. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And then they will internalize it. And when they test it out, try and try, and they will realize, yes, I can. That's where you take them to the bridge. And what's the word in the question mark? T, transformation. Learning a language is transformative experience. For me, from not being able to speak Spanish to my neighbor invited me to their house to have cake And I realized she doesn't speak any English at all. And I was there for a whole hour speaking Spanish. My daughter looked at me, my son looked at me, saying, "Mom, you okay?" I have a I have a headache, but I feel that's so such a transformative experience because I just use whatever I know and communicate, even had a conversation with my neighbor. So they won't be able to experience that if they don't go through the PLAY. They will need to go through all the experience and they will see, wow, when they're across the bridge and keep building the bridge doesn't end just there because transformation is a forever experience and they will take it in their hand. And that's
Absolutely.
play.
That's wonderful, and I particularly like this application because I see that, or I hear from many parents. Yes, but when we go out, we don't see anything. Maybe not street signs, no restaurants where the menu is written in the language, etc. But there is still the possibility to bridge actually between the community language and your language that you have.
Yes.
So trying to find out the similarities. Yeah, that's maybe potato is written in the similar thing. La patata in Italian, potato, patata. It sounds very similar. So it's not completely different. So trying to figure out how to apply what you know in your language in the surroundings around you. You don't have to necessarily go to the place, go to the country where the language is spoken. Not everyone can do this regularly. And this leads many families to give up because they say it's just too much for me. But having this idea to actually apply what you have at home also outside of home and finding this kind of community, that's very powerful, I must say, and very motivating for the children, but also for the parents.
Yes, a lot of times when I do teacher training, usually teachers are not. Some of them will be teaching Chinese, some of them will be teaching another language. And then when they come in, I usually use this. I say, "Well, give me a password." So I'll tell the first teacher who came in to give the password to the next one. Then the next one give to the next one. I say, "You actually know Chinese already." They're like, "What?" I said, "How do you say lemon in Mandarin?" 柠檬. They're like, "Oh." I say, "How about you also know tofu, 豆腐? How about the ping pong ball? Ping pong." They all burst out laughing. We need to connect the dots, not just connect the dots, so they feel it's possible. So play and have fun with the target language.
I love it. Also because it's my personal approach to every new language. I try to figure out what I understand, and then build up from there. Then you connect some dots. Sometimes it takes a little while, but I mean, who cares? We just get there in the end at some point. Right?
Totally.
Yes. So this is about the heritage language.
Yes.
That's amazing. So we have the five tips that you have covered perfectly, wonderfully. And what would you say to parents now who want to raise their children abroad with Chinese as not the home language, but as an additional language?
Yes. So I have another slide for you. I use the word enable. It's able, ABLE. It's able. You can do it. So let's take a look. So this is actually, these two sets of ideas can be used, interchangeably. You can use it for both, group of people. But I do think they have different needs. So I want to make sure the parents or teachers, this is something you can apply or use and pick it up and to see if this is something you can fit with your needs. So ABLE, able. Wow, that gives you power, right? You can do this. So, if we're learning Mandarin Chinese as a second language, so A is applying. Again, this is very important, right? Because apply with whatever you learned is so important. So this is like we are going to have fun. But a lot of times, like Ute, you just mentioned, well, how about if we don't have anybody speaking the language? So during COVID, I was teaching a school online, and I would say 99.9 of the families, they don't have anybody speaking Mandarin. So I said, well, you need to find a learning partner. So kids are so creative. What does that mean? I said, well, you're going to teach what you learned to somebody, in your neighborhood, in your family, or you can connect with even online grandparents. Do that, and then we'll record that, and then we'll share this very 30 seconds your video. They are so creative. Somebody said, "Hi, Billy. 你好吗?" Oh, 很好. The dog, their dog is a learning partner. And then more videos coming in. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, toddler brother, friends. I didn't see anybody cry. I saw everybody laughing. They were having a great time. Nobody speaks Chinese in their house, but they're having a great time. The power of applying, the power of learning with a learning partner. Who is the best learning partner? You, the parent.
Yes.
Even the pet. Oh, our cat, actually, they are our Spanish learning partners when we first got to Quito. So we say, oh, we have trilingual cats. They started with the Spanish, and we teach them Mandarin. So it's really interesting. So applying. Second, B, belonging. Well, because this is a language that you don't really have a lot of connection with. You're just studying up. So we need to make the kids and the family feel they belong to the community. There are a lot of great communities online or in your physical community, or you can read books as teachers, or maybe you have a tutor, or you have some kind of community or school or program. That is where you will feel like you belong, and people are very welcoming you to learn about this language and this culture. And I think this is so important for heritage language kids also, not just because they were born with the heritage culture. I think they need to feel the connection with the culture and the language. And then we're going to look at L is learning. For younger kids, is learning, acquisition, having fun. But for bigger kids, I think when we first started the conversation, we talk about bigger kids that learn language a little bit with they are more on the conscious side. So I call it leaping. They're making the leap to try something new. So we really need to help them to feel comfortable so they can make that first step and so they go to the next step. And E is empathy. I think that's for everyone. Mm-hmm. Compassion is an action. Empathy is a tool. And then empathy is what we can see that usually you don't see from the above. And then underneath the empathy surface is the feeling. Is the child scared? Does it have fear? How can we make them feel more relaxed? How can we make it more fun? What can I help them? That's why what we say is very important. Oh, this is impossible. Then it becomes impossible. This is a very difficult language. Then suddenly it becomes very difficult. What I usually say is, no matter what language is, I always say, it is different. It is, actually, it is different. So we got to have the empathy for our children. So when they can put it all together, they want to join you on the journey. They cross the bridge. They want to keep learning. Also, T, transformation. Mm-hmm. How cool is that to be able to speak a language in another language to the people who actually understand it? A student of mine who, a high school student, and she recently told me she ran into somebody who she thought might be speaking English because this is a child who has no Mandarin culture background. The family, nobody speaks the language. So she saw the mask had some Chinese characters. So she said, I decided to ask if the person speaks some Chinese. So she went there politely and talked with her. They had a conversation for 10 minutes in Mandarin. And the brother was standing there like, oh, my sister. When we talk about transformation, this is transformation for this student. And I just want you to know, she recently just told me she has decided to study Asian studies when she goes to college and going to focus on Mandarin Chinese. I think that as a teacher, I think this is probably the best compliment. She is also going to double major, so she has a theater major. But I think learning a language is transformative in her own words, she said, Miss Panda, many people says Mandarin Chinese is one of the most difficult languages in the world. But it's simple. It's so beautiful. See, for her, that's what I see, the transformation. And that's the beauty of learning a language.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I would like to keep this quote from this student of yours. Chinese is not difficult. Yeah.
Yep.
It is only as difficult as you make it for yourself. This was something that my son told me when I said, wow, you're studying Chinese and preparing for the end exams. Are you sure you want to you'd want to take this on? Then I had to bite my tongue and say, no, if he wants to learn Chinese, he learns Chinese. If he wants to learn Japanese, he learns Japanese, etc. So I could not keep up with his pace because, as I said before, he's very, very fast learner. But this belonging that you just mentioned, this belonging also to a friend is very powerful. He had two very dear Chinese friends who made him start with it. So that was for him something that motivated him.
Yes.
And I think we shouldn't underestimate it. Maybe with younger children, we parents can have some kind of a say, and we can be role models if we are interested in what this language is and how it sounds and how to use the language and how to live the language. But at some point, they can take over, and it's beautiful to see how they can become very self-engaging into something new. And even if the language is completely different with completely different signs, and they are not 2 years old anymore.
Yes.
He was 14, 15 when he started, so 2 digits. But you can still start, and you can come to a certain point and become fluent up to that kind of level of fluency that you wish for, or that you can attain in that period of time. It's always possible. I like this quote that Chinese, even if it seems very difficult for us Westerners or with other kind of scripts that we have, it is not. So also with Arabic and other kind of scripts that we have. But I would wanted to point this out specifically because it's one of the main reasons also that I heard from some parents who were in committees and having to decide which languages to insert into the curriculum at school. That was one of the reasons where I then said, no, please stop saying it's too complicated. It's too complicated for you in your mind, but for our children, it's not.
I love
so
that.
difficult.
Yes, I think that's why I always say it's different, any languages. But at the same time, I think what they can try is that I want to share a story. I said, sometimes we need to be in the shoes of the child so we can understand what the learning process is like. Just a couple of years ago, before COVID, we had a piano recital. And at the end of the recital, my kids performed. We had a really good time. The teacher came out and said, I actually have a special program, a short special program for you. And we would like you to stay a little bit longer. And everybody was like, wow, what is this? This is so exciting. So she said, a student's parent, a father, came to her and said he wanted to play a duet with her daughter, who just started learning piano maybe a few months ago. He said, I want to experience what she is experiencing as an adult, learning how to play the piano. So she said, here you go. The father came out with a little girl, 6 years old, sat down and played a little tune. I was sitting there in the concert hall. I felt very touched because I think that's what we all need to experience when our kids are trying something new. That's empathy in action, to really go in there to see what it's like to put your fingers on the keys of a piano and play and make sound. It seems easy, or you can tell them to practice, but when it's your turn, what do you think? So I think this is what I think When you want your child to learn a language, maybe you should try it too. Join in, be a part of it, and celebrate together on the journey.
This is the end. This is amazing. Yes, I couldn't add anything else to this, Amanda. It's exactly what I think too. If we can somehow be part of the journey of our children, we don't have to be better than them. We don't have to be always teaching them. I love this kind of transformation when our children teach us something.
Yes.
It's such a rewarding step for a parent, in my opinion, my personal opinion, to see that my child can teach me something. That's like, okay, my child is ready for the world. Because if someone can teach us adults, we're not so young anymore at that point, then it's the best kind of first or second or third or whatever step they are taking on that journey. So I would like to finish with this, so to invite the parents to get with their children on that journey, and not to maybe outsource it to someone else who takes care of that. Some parents don't have the energy and the means to really dive into that with their children, but sometimes it's just a little step, just a few words that you can say, and that signalizes to the child this is something worthwhile. And I really appreciate that you are taking the effort to learn the language, whether it is now we're talking about the not heritage language, but for heritage language learners, the same. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing all this with us and for being the guest today. I don't know, is it Jie Jie?
Oh, 谢谢. Oh, wow. 不谢. Yeah.
Yes. Just a little.
Ute, thank you so much for having me. And I think it's such a pleasure to be here and share, what we know, what we have learned on this journey. And I also feel like I think every parent who's watching this or who wants to help their kids to learn either Chinese as a heritage language or a second language or a world language, I think everyone has the passion. But I think passion, for me, I also share this, passion needs action, and action will bring motivation, and motivation will give you the daily practice you need. So it will keep you on track on this bilingual journey. So for me, usually people will say, I wish you great success. But I want to wish you tiny success each day, from where I am to where you are.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. It's like the little pills, right? Every day, or little pieces of vegetables. Thank you so much. And thank you also for those who were able to follow us live, and also for those who are going to watch this in the recording. Please keep on asking your question or sharing your experience, or leave your comments in the comment section on YouTube. We are going to continue the conversation there. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you back the next time. And for you, Amanda, I'm hoping really to see you back at some other screen and about another topic. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Goodbye. 谢谢 again.
谢谢. Take
Tot de
care.
volgende keer. Take care.
Have
Yes.
fun.
Yes. Yeah, and there was, let me just quote Tetsu. Wow, wishing tiny success never sounded so good. Yes, Tetsu, right? We have a lot to do, but these tiny successes can be huge for our children. Although they might not seem in the first moment when we see them, it's actually the case. Thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.